I genuinely didn't think Louis Vuitton would go this far, but here we are. Allegedly, they're hiking prices by 50%, yes, 50, after Chinese manufacturers cut them off cold. And honestly, I think it's one of the boldest, most reckless moves we've seen from a luxury brand in years. We're not talking about a tiny bump in pricing to adjust for inflation or to tweak margins. No, this is a full-on money grab disguised as damage control. And what's even crazier, it might not even be enough to save them. This is the kind of chaos that exposes the cracks underneath the gold-plated surface. The price tag for a Neverfull just jumped from "that's a splurge" to "you could have bought a car instead." And if you think this is just about bags and belts, think again. This is about legacy, scarcity, global economics, and a brand that might be spiraling faster than anyone thought possible. Let's unpack it. If the rumors are true, and they're coming in from multiple insider sources, Louis Vuitton is hiking their prices by 50% across multiple product lines. That's not just shocking, that's nearly offensive. I think we've crossed into new territory where luxury isn't even pretending to be accessible anymore. And let's be real, this isn't just about exclusivity.
You can continue to expose all of these retailers, nobody's gonna care.
I am about to crash.
Y'all would never catch me in nothing fake. No fake earrings, no fake bracelets, no fake shoes, nothing fake designer. It's gonna be a no for me.
Out.
This is about covering up a supply chain disaster they didn't see coming. We're talking about items that were already overpriced by design suddenly becoming so expensive that even high-tier buyers are backing off. Classic leather bags now hovering near $5,000. Small accessories like card holders or belts jumping to $1,500 and up. I think this kind of spike tells us exactly what's happening behind closed doors. Panic, and that panic, it's being passed directly onto the customer, masked as luxury inflation. Even seasoned collectors are questioning if the brand has completely lost touch. A 5% increase? Fine. 10%? Maybe. But 50% overnight? That screams instability, not strategy. And this brings us to the real question. What triggered such an insane decision?
De l'entrée, où on me donne des morceaux de cuir jusqu'au moment où je vais avoir livré ma pièce, je veux pas qu'on reproduise un geste de façon indéfinie en se disant bon bah je fais toujours ce même geste et enfin, je pense qu'on est vraiment là pour apprendre un métier et pas des tâches.
This is where things get wild. Reports are flooding in that Chinese manufacturers have ended all production for Louis Vuitton. Yes, all of it. I think people seriously underestimate how much of the luxury supply chain depends on high skill, high-speed Chinese labor, especially for early-stage production, finishing, and hardware prep. We're not talking about fakes or knockoffs here. These were factory-tier manufacturers producing components, sometimes even full products for global brands. So when those partnerships suddenly go cold, it's not just a hiccup, it's a complete factory blackout. Insiders are whispering about multiple reasons behind the fallout: rising tensions over trademarks, unpaid backlogs, sudden quality demands, even whispers of retaliation over price negotiations gone wrong.
Got a lot of requests, do Hermes next. And that's why we're here in the Highland Park Mall.
Italy, made in China, or maybe made in Chile. Oh yeah, that should be a thing, by the way. I have spent over $100,000 of my own money dissecting luxury bags, cutting them open, analyzing every stitch, every layer. Why? Because I had to know what made those bags so expensive.
But whatever the cause, it's clear that LV was not prepared. Factories that once turned out thousands of units a month are now allegedly ghosting their reps. Warehouses are reportedly sitting half empty, and I think the brand went into crisis mode the second they realized they couldn't plug the hole fast enough. What's worse, this cutoff didn't just halt production. It exposed Louis Vuitton's deep dependency on a country they've never publicly acknowledged in their manufacturing narratives. The myth of made in France just shattered, and the aftermath is hitting hard, and this is where the dominoes really start to fall. We need to talk about the elephant in the room, tariffs, because behind every price tag at Louis Vuitton right now is a tangled mess of global politics, tax hikes, and retaliatory trade moves. And while the brand hasn't gone on record about I think it's obvious. They're feeling the heat, big time. The ongoing trade war between the US and China isn't just about steel and semiconductors. Luxury goods are getting caught in the crossfire too. Every stitch, every zipper, every imported scrap of canvas is now more expensive to move across borders. What used to be a smooth supply chain has become a bureaucratic nightmare loaded with fees, delays, and red tape.
They feel cheaper. No, that's not quality issue. It's luxury brand washing.
Hermes, you guys, it's time to show off your factories. No, I don't want to wait to go on YouTube and watch a beautiful documentary on. Show them off right here on TikTok. Let the world see. Okay, get like China. You gotta be ghetto about it. Just let people know.
And here's the real kicker. Louis Vuitton built its empire on global efficiency. That meant designing in Paris, sourcing leather from Spain, having hardware from Italy, and yes, assembling or sourcing components from Chinese factories. But now, those costs are ballooning, and who pays the price? You do, the customer. Think Louis Vuitton is trying to patch up a financial hole without admitting how deep it really is. Instead of saying, hey, we're getting crushed by tariffs, they're disguising the price increase as brand elevation. But let's be real, if a handbag that was $3,000 yesterday is now $4,500, that's not elevation. That's desperation wrapped in a gold monogram, and this whole situation raises a terrifying possibility. What if other brands follow suit? If LV pulls it off, what's stopping Dior, Gucci, or Balenciaga from doing the same? Tariffs might have just become the excuse the entire industry needed to go price crazy. And once that door opens, it's not getting shut anytime soon. But before we worry about the competition, let's talk about the customers, because they are not taking this lying down. Let me be blunt, people are livid, and I don't mean trolls on Reddit, I mean hardcore luxury buyers, VIP clients, fashion influencers, and longtime collectors, the kind of people who've dropped tens of thousands of dollars over the years. Without blinking, are now openly dragging Louis Vuitton online. And that says everything. What I'm seeing, and honestly what I'm feeling too, is this deep sense of betrayal. Loyal customers, the ones who stuck around through annual price hikes and product delays, are now being slapped with a 50% increase overnight. For what? Because LV can't manage their factory relationships? Because of trade policy? Because someone in a boardroom panicked? I think Louis Vuitton seriously misjudged the public's tolerance. People were already annoyed about quality slipping, thread unraveling, canvas cracking, hardware tarnishing in under a year. Now you want to charge double for the same questionable durability? That's not luxury, that's delusion. And let's not forget how much of LV's modern image is built on social status, Instagram, street style. TikTok unboxings. Gen Z and millennials made this brand feel cool again, but those same people are now saying, I'm out. If the entry-level bag becomes completely unreachable, the brand's accessibility vanishes, and with it, their cultural relevance. I think Louis Vuitton might have crossed a line they can't uncross, because once a brand becomes known for taking advantage of its fans, trust evaporates, and in luxury, trust is the brand. But the backlash isn't just emotional, it's strategic, because now buyers are looking elsewhere, and that's where things get dangerous. Here's where the plot twists hard. While Louis Vuitton scrambles to spin their price hike as some high-minded branding decision, the real disruption is happening in back channels, Telegram groups, and obscure e-commerce platforms. Because the very same manufacturers that used to work with Louis Vuitton, they're allegedly going direct to consumer. Yep, the factories, the workshops. The same people who knew the exact stitching methods, the leather textures, the signature shapes, they're now selling their own version straight to the public. And get this, some of the pieces are almost indistinguishable from the real thing. Same look, same quality, but at a fraction of the price. And honestly, I think this is the biggest threat Louis Vuitton has ever faced, because when consumers feel burned, especially by a price hike this outrageous, they don't just walk away, they look for alternatives. And suddenly, these factory-grade mirrors quality pieces look a whole lot more attractive. Why pay $4,000 when you can pay $400 and get a bag that feels exactly the same? I know the brand loyalists will say, it's not about the bag, it's about the brand. But even that argument is starting to crumble, because when the brand shows it values profits over people, people stop valuing the brand, period. And if this direct-to-consumer wave grows, and I think it will, it could be the beginning of the end for luxury gatekeeping. The illusion of scarcity is already cracking, and for Louis Vuitton, that illusion was everything. But what happens next? Could shake the entire fashion industry. Let's talk about the resale market, because this price chaos is hitting it hard. For years, Louis Vuitton was considered a relatively safe investment. People bought Neverfulls, Speedies, and Keepalls not just for the look, but because they held value. The resale game was strong. You could buy a bag, baby it, and flip it for nearly what you paid, sometimes more depending on the condition. But now, that stability is crumbling fast. Since the news of the alleged 50% price hike started circulating, resale platforms like Fashionphile, Rebag, and The Real are getting flooded with listings. Sellers are either panicking or trying to cash in before the backlash spreads. And buyers, they're confused. Prices are all over the place. Some people are trying to match the rumored new retail numbers, jacking up used listings by hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars. Others are slashing prices just to move inventory before the market fully collapses. I think this is a nightmare scenario for longtime collectors. That closet full of investments suddenly feels less like a portfolio and more like a pile of overpriced canvas. No one knows what anything's really worth anymore. And if trust in the brand tanks, resale value could spiral with it. What's worse, this chaos creates room for fakes to sneak in. In a volatile market where prices are unhinged, authenticity checks start slipping. Scammers thrive in confusion, and that means buyers lose confidence. Not just in Louis Vuitton, but in everyone. And guess who gets the blame for the whole mess? Louis Vuitton. Because once they broke the pricing structure, they broke the ecosystem that supported it, and now another storm is brewing on social media. And it's not pretty. The alleged 50% price hike by Louis Vuitton, coupled with the cessation of production by Chinese manufacturers, marks a pivotal moment for the brand. Navigating trade wars, consumer expectations, and the rise of direct-to-consumer luxury goods will require strategic agility and a commitment to preserving the brand's core values. As the luxury fashion industry evolves, only time will tell how Louis Vuitton will adapt and whether it can maintain its esteemed position in the market.